So a few hours ago, I was watching a debate on Times Now in which the people there were talking about the same-sex marriage law and how the central government refused to legalize same-sex marriage. And a representative of the central government said that one of the reasons it decided not to legalize same-sex marriage was because society was not ready for it, and that there is still no societal acceptance, or very little societal acceptance, for same-sex relationships, and also because it would lead to societal unrest. And they gave the example of the NRCCA protests and the farmers' protests. So I found this argument to be very strange and very flawed, because first of all, same-sex marriage is not the same as the farmers' protest and the NRCCA protests. They're very different. And the second thing is, even if you will have a few people who will not support same-sex marriage, does that make it right? Is it fair and is it just to not let same-sex people, to not give them the equal right to marry as their heterosexual counterparts? It does not seem to be fair. And I'm sure people can even make constitutional and legal and more complicated arguments, but what I'm saying is something that just seems to be a matter of fairness. And I don't think it is fair. And it is not the same as CA or NRC or a farmers' protest, because the farmers' protests are about agricultural laws, it's about the rural economy, it's about privatization, it's very different. Similarly, NRCCA is about granting citizenship on the basis of religion. It is a very different issue. What we are talking about is granting Indians the right, a certain section of Indians, the equal right to marry. It is not the same as the farmers' protest or NRCCA. Moreover, even if a few people protest, how does that make the government afraid of passing certain laws? Because we are seeing that even with the NRCCA protests and even with the farmers' protests, this government has not decided to push back on these laws. So if the government doesn't seem to really care so much about the protesters and the protests, then what's stopping the government from passing a law to legalize same-sex marriage? It's very clear that the government doesn't want to, because it doesn't support same-sex couples having equal rights, and that is the basic fact. And as far as the argument about society not being ready is concerned, I also find that ridiculous, because when has Indian society since 1947 ever been accepting of gay and lesbian people? If you read about the 377, the legal battle to decriminalize 377, you'll be surprised to know that the first petition was filed sometime in 94. So it's been like 25-26 years. And if you look at the history of the 377 law, you'll know that it has gone to the High Court, it's gone to the Supreme Court, you had protesters, you had the Supreme Court reverse its own decision, and all of this took so many years. So society has clearly not been accepting of gay people for a very long time. And so if you wait for societal approval, then India will take 20, 30, 40, maybe even 60, 70 years. And is that fair? Is it fair to let a certain section of society, which is a minority, to be left to the whims of the majority? And this is exactly what was mentioned in the Navtej judgment, that you cannot let majoritarian rule diminish the rights of the minority, because LGBTQ people are very small in number and many of them are very afraid to come out. So when you have a small community that's not ready to come out, when you cannot even see too many same-sex couples because it's so people in society are so judgmental, why are you still not willing to grant whoever is willing to marry the right to marry? Right? It's absolutely ridiculous. I think the reason is because certain people feel that granting equality to same-sex couples would somehow destroy the institution of marriage, and I use it like in quotes, destroy the institution of marriage. And I think that's very flawed, because marriage isn't just about procreation and it isn't just about raising children, right? It should be about love and it should be about compatibility. So I think there are lots of problems in this argument about protesters potentially disrupting society, and also about societal acceptance. I think that there's never a wrong time to do the right thing, and I think this could have been an occasion to legalize same-sex marriage and to pass a progressive law, but sadly that was not done, and so I think the battle will go on.